Your sister earned everything on her own, unlike you." My father's words cut through the noise of our family gathering like a knife. He was laughing, holding up his champagne glass, making a toast to celebrate my sister Brooke's latest achievement. 40 people stood in the ballroom of the country club, all eyes turning to me after his statement. Some looked uncomfortable. Others nodded in agreement. Brooke smiled modestly, her hand resting on Dad's arm as if to quiet him, but her eyes met mine with unmistakable triumph. I stood there in my simple black dress, the one I'd bought on sale 3 years ago because I couldn't afford anything new. My hands clenched around my own glass as everyone waited for my reaction. They expected me to smile politely, to laugh it off like I always did, to be the good daughter who never caused trouble. Instead, I set down my glass carefully and spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. "Actually, Dad, there's something you should know about how Brooke earned everything. My name is Kayla Morrison, and I'm 32 years old. I work as a graphic designer at a small marketing agency in Boston, making just enough to cover my rent and student loans. For my entire life, I'd been compared to my older sister Brooke, who seemed to succeed at everything effortlessly. She was beautiful, confident, and according to our parents, completely self-made. At 35, Brooke owned a successful interior design firm, drove a luxury car, and lived in a penthouse downtown. Our parents never missed an opportunity to point out the differences between us. Tonight was supposed to be another celebration of Brooke's success. She just won a major design contract with a hotel chain, a deal worth over $2 million. Dad had organized this party, inviting family, friends, and business associates. I'd come out of obligation, knowing I'd spend the evening feeling invisible next to my perfect sister. But that was before Dad's toast, before he publicly humiliated me one more time. The room went silent after my words. Dad's smile faded. "Kayla, this isn't the time for your jealousy." "It's not jealousy, Dad, it's truth." I pulled out my phone, my hands surprisingly steady despite my racing heart. "Should I show everyone the bank statements? The ones showing the $200,000 you and Mom gave Brooke to start her business 5 years ago." I watched the color drain from Dad's face. Mom stood frozen near the bar, her expression somewhere between shock and panic. Brooke's smile disappeared completely. "You went through my private financial records." Dad's voice was low, dangerous now. "Not yours, mine. Last month I finally got access to the trust fund Grandma Helen left me, the one you've been managing since I turned 18. Imagine my surprise when I discovered it was empty." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Several people pulled out their phones, no doubt preparing to capture whatever happened next. This was going to be great gossip at their next dinner party. "That trust fund paid for your college," Dad said quickly, recovering his composure. "Every penny went to your education." "Actually, no. I have the statements from Boston College. I paid for college myself through scholarships and student loans. Loans I'm still paying off, by the way." I pulled up the documents on my phone, documents I'd spent the last month gathering. Grandma's trust fund was worth $350,000 when she died. "You were supposed to give it to me when I turned 25. That was 7 years ago." Mom finally found her voice. "Kayla, we can discuss this privately. You're embarrassing yourself." "I'm embarrassing myself," I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You gave Brooke $200,000 of my money to start her business. You used another $100,000 to renovate your beach house. And the remaining $50,000, that went to Brooke's wedding 3 years ago. The wedding where you told me you couldn't help with my student loans because money was tight." Brooke stepped forward, her face flushed with anger or shame, I couldn't tell which. "Kayla, you're being dramatic. Mom and Dad helped me because I had a solid business plan. You were always so irresponsible with money." "Irresponsible? I worked 2 jobs through college while you partied. I've been supporting myself since I was 18 while you lived at home rent-free until you were 28. My voice was rising now, years of resentment pouring out. "And that solid business plan, I wrote it. Remember when you asked for my help with your pitch deck? I spent 3 weeks creating every slide, writing every word, designing every graphic. For free because you're my sister." The crowd was fully engaged now, phones out, recording everything. This would be all over social media by morning. Dad's reputation as a respected financial advisor would take a serious hit once people learned he'd stolen from his own daughter. "You have no proof of any of this," Dad said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Actually, I do. I'd been preparing for this moment for weeks, ever since I discovered the truth about my trust fund. I have Grandma Helen's will, clearly stating the trust fund terms. I have bank records showing the transfers from my trust to your accounts. I have emails where Brooke asked me to help with her business plan, thanking me for my work. I have text messages where Mom told me you couldn't afford to help with my student loans the same month you transferred $50,000 to Brooke. I looked directly at my father, and I have a lawyer who's very interested in all of it. The room erupted in whispered conversations. Dad's business partner, Mr. Chen, who'd been standing near the bar, looked shocked. Several of Dad's clients were in attendance, and I could see them processing this information, wondering what it meant about Dad's professional integrity. If he'd steal from his own daughter, what might he do with their money? "You're making a huge mistake," Brooke hissed, stepping closer to me. "You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is staying quiet for so long, letting everyone believe you were self-made while I was the failure." I looked around at the crowd. Brooke's entire success story is built on my inheritance. The business everyone admires started with my money, the awards she's won, based on designs I helped create, that hotel contract she just signed. I consulted on the pitch for free, like always, because she said she couldn't afford to pay me yet. "That's not true," Brooke protested, but her voice wavered. "Really, should I pull up our text messages? The ones where you asked me to create renderings for the hotel pitch, where you promised you'd credit me once you won the contract." I held up my phone. "I have screenshots of everything." Mom tried a different approach. "Kayla, honey, you're upset. Let's go somewhere private and talk about this calmly." "I'm done talking privately. I've tried that for years. I came to you 6 months ago when I first suspected something was wrong with the trust fund. You told me I was being paranoid. You said Grandma probably didn't leave as much as I remembered." I felt tears threatening but pushed them back. "I believed you. I always believed you, until I hired my own lawyer and got copies of all the documents." Dad's face had turned red. "If you pursue this, you'll tear this family apart. You already did that when you stole from me, when you gave my inheritance to Brooke while I struggled to pay rent, when you let me work 60-hour weeks to pay off student loans while sitting on money that was legally mine." The truth was, I'd been planning this confrontation for weeks. After discovering the theft, I'd been furious, heartbroken, ready to file charges immediately. But my lawyer, Fiona Brennan, had advised patience. "Gather everything first," she'd said. "Make sure your case is airtight. Then decide how you want to handle it." I'd spent a month collecting evidence, going through old emails, saving text messages, requesting financial documents. The more I found, the angrier I became. But I also became strategic. I realized that confronting my family privately would accomplish nothing. They'd deny everything, make excuses, maybe offer me some token amount to keep quiet. No, I needed witnesses. I needed the truth to be public so they couldn't bury it. So I'd waited for this party, knowing Dad would make some comment about Brooke's superiority. He always did. And I'd prepared my response. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice steady now. "You're going to repay the full $350,000 plus 7 years of interest. According to my lawyer, that brings the total to about $460,000. You have 90 days to arrange payment." "Or what?" Brooke challenged. "Or I file a civil lawsuit and report Dad to the State Financial Services Board for misappropriating trust funds. Given that he's a licensed financial advisor who manages other people's money, I imagine that won't go well." Dad's face went from red to pale in seconds. The state board complaint would destroy his career. Even if he was eventually cleared, the investigation alone would cause most of his clients to leave. He'd lose his professional license, his reputation, everything he'd built over 30 years. "You wouldn't do that," Mom said, but she sounded uncertain. "Try me. I've already drafted the complaints. My lawyer has them ready to file." I looked at Brooke. "And as for you, I want public acknowledgement of my contributions to your business. A formal statement on your company website and social media explaining that I created significant portions of your early work, including the hotel pitch." "That will ruin my credibility," Brooke protested. "You mean it will tell the truth? Your choice, though. Either you acknowledge it voluntarily, or it comes out during the lawsuit when I submit all our communications as evidence." The party had become a spectator event now. No one was even pretending to look away anymore. Phones were definitely recording. By tomorrow morning, this would be trending on local social media. "Can we please discuss this somewhere private?" Dad's voice was almost pleading now. No, you've had 7 years to do the right thing privately. You chose not to, now we do this my way. I picked up my purse from the table where I'd set it. You have until Monday to contact my lawyer. After that, the lawsuits get filed. I walked toward the door, my legs shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off. But I kept my head high, refusing to show weakness. As I passed Mr. Chen, Dad's business partner, he spoke quietly. Ms. Morrison, if you have a moment, I'd like to speak with you outside. I nodded, and he followed me out of the ballroom. Once we were in the lobby, away from the crowd, he handed me his business card. I had no idea what your father had done. I want you to know that I'll be conducting an immediate review of our firm's practices and client accounts. I appreciate that, Mr. Chen. I don't believe anyone else was affected. This seems to have been personal, not professional. Perhaps, but trust has been broken and I need to verify that. He paused. I also want you to know that I'm considering dissolving our partnership. What your father did is unconscionable and I can't be associated with it. I hadn't expected that, but I nodded. That's your decision to make. After Mr. Chen left, I sat in my car in the parking lot for 10 minutes, shaking. I'd actually done it. I'd confronted them publicly, laid out all the evidence, demanded restitution. Part of me couldn't believe I'd been that bold. The old Kayla would have stayed quiet, would have swallowed the humiliation, would have gone home and cried in private. But the old Kayla had also been broke, exhausted, and drowning in debt while her family lived comfortably on her stolen inheritance. That Kayla was gone. My phone started buzzing with messages. Amanda, my best friend, had seen videos of the confrontation already circulating online. OMG Kayla, did you really just do that? I drove to Amanda's apartment across town. She met me at the door with whine and concern. I can't believe you've been dealing with this alone. Why didn't you tell me? I needed to be sure first. I needed all the evidence before I said anything to anyone. I explained everything while she listened, her expression moving from shock to anger to something like pride. I always knew your family treated you badly, but this is theft, criminal theft. I know. My lawyer says I have a strong case for both civil and criminal charges. Are you going to press criminal charges? Amanda asked. I'd been wrestling with that question for weeks. I don't know. Part of me wants to see Dad face consequences beyond just paying me back, but he's still my father. Despite everything, I don't know if I can send him to prison. He stole $350,000 from you, Kayla. Most people go to prison for stealing a car. He stole your entire future. She was right, of course, but family was complicated. Over the weekend, the story spread faster than I'd anticipated. Someone at the party had posted video clips with captions like, "Woman exposes family theft at sister's party," and "Financial advisor stole from own daughter." Local news outlets picked it up. By Sunday afternoon, a reporter from the Boston Globe had called, wanting to interview me about financial abuse within families. I declined the interview, but the story ran anyway, based on the videos and some additional reporting. The reporter had confirmed the basic facts, that my grandmother's trust fund existed, that I was listed as beneficiary, and that my father had been the trustee. They'd also discovered that Dad had no legal authority to give that money to Brooke or use it for his beach house. The trust documents were clear. The money was to be given to me at age 25 with no exceptions. Monday morning, my lawyer Fiona called. Your father's attorney reached out. They want to negotiate a settlement. Already? The publicity has been devastating. Your father's lost several major clients. His business partner is apparently dissolving their firm. They're motivated to make this go away quickly. I thought about it. What are they offering? Full repayment of the trust fund plus interest. $460,000, paid within 60 days. In exchange, you agree not to file criminal charges or report him to the state board. What about Brooke acknowledging my work? They're willing to include a statement that you provided consulting services during her early business development. Fiona paused. It's not as strong as what you demanded, but it's something. I considered the offer. $460,000 would change my life. I could pay off my student loans completely. I could buy a house. I could finally have the financial security I'd always dreamed of. But was it enough? Tell them I want the full acknowledgement from Brooke, not just a vague statement about consulting services. She needs to specify which projects I worked on, including the hotel contract pitch, and I want Dad to cover my legal fees. That's fair. I'll counter with those terms. By Tuesday afternoon, we had an agreement. Dad would pay $460,000 within 60 days. Brooke would post a detailed acknowledgement of my contributions on her company website and social media. Dad would pay my legal fees, which totaled about $15,000. In exchange, I wouldn't pursue criminal charges or file a complaint with the state board. The settlement also included a clause that if they failed to make payment or if Brooke didn't post the acknowledgement as specified, I could immediately file all charges without any further notice. Fiona had insisted on that protection, and I was glad she had. I didn't fully trust my family to keep their word. "How do you feel?" Amanda asked when I told her about the settlement. Relieved, angry, sad. All of those emotions were competing inside me. I'm getting my money back, which is huge, but I'm also losing my family. "They lost you when they stole from you," Amanda pointed out. She was right, but it still hurt. Despite everything, these were the people who'd raised me, who I'd loved and trusted for 32 years. Learning they'd betrayed me so completely was a wound that money couldn't heal. Wednesday afternoon, I received an email notification that Brooke had posted the acknowledgement on her company website and social media. I read it carefully, making sure she'd included everything specified in the settlement. "I want to acknowledge and thank my sister, Kayla Morrison, for her significant contributions to Sterling Designs during our founding years. Kayla created our original business plan, designed our pitch deck, and provided graphic design work for numerous projects, including the Jefferson Hotel Group proposal. Her creative vision and technical skills were instrumental in our early success. I'm grateful for her support and regret not publicly crediting her work sooner. It wasn't a full confession of everything I'd done, but it was enough. Comments started appearing almost immediately. Industry colleagues expressing surprise, clients asking questions, some people defending Brooke, saying collaboration was normal in business, others pointing out that taking credit for someone else's work without compensation or acknowledgement was unethical at best. I didn't respond to any of the comments. The statement spoke for itself. Thursday morning, my phone rang. It was Mom. I let it go to voicemail. She called 3 more times that day, then Dad called twice. I ignored them all. What was there to say? They'd stolen from me, lied to me, and publicly humiliated me for years. Friday afternoon, a wire transfer appeared in my bank account. $475,000, the full settlement amount plus legal fees. I stared at the number on my screen, unable to quite process it. Just 2 months ago, I'd had $800 in my checking account and $60,000 in student loan debt. Now I had enough money to completely change my life. The first thing I did was pay off my student loans in full. Watching that balance go to zero was incredibly satisfying. Those loans had been hanging over me for a decade, a constant source of stress and shame. Next, I put a down payment on a condo in a neighborhood I'd always loved but never thought I could afford. A real home, not just another rental apartment. I invested the remainder wisely, working with a financial advisor, not Dad, someone Fiona had recommended, someone who would actually protect my interests. Through all of this, my family continued trying to contact me. Mom left long voicemails about forgiveness and family. Dad sent emails explaining how sorry he was, how he'd made a terrible mistake. Brooke texted occasionally, mostly complaining about how the acknowledgement had damaged her reputation and cost her several potential clients. I didn't respond to any of them. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. 2 months after the confrontation at the country club, I was settling into my new condo when Amanda stopped by with coffee and news. "You're not going to believe this, but your story made it into a podcast about family financial abuse." They interviewed some lawyer who said cases like yours are more common than people think. I wasn't sure how I felt about my story being discussed publicly, but if it helped other people recognize financial abuse in their own families, maybe it was worth it. "How are you doing, really?" Amanda asked, studying my face. "Some days are good. Some days I'm angry all over again. Some days I just feel sad about losing my family." "You didn't lose them. They lost you. There's a difference." I knew she was right, but grief didn't follow logic. I was grieving the family I'd thought I had, even though I now knew that family had never really existed. 3 months after the settlement, my career took an unexpected turn. A design firm I'd admired for years reached out, having seen Brooke's acknowledgement and done some research into my work. They offered me a senior designer position with a salary almost double what I'd been making. "We're impressed by your portfolio," the hearing manager said during my interview. "But we're especially impressed by your integrity. What you did, standing up to your family and demanding recognition, that takes courage. That's the kind of person we want on our team." I accepted the position immediately. For the first time in my professional life, I felt valued and respected. My ideas were heard. My work was credited properly. I wasn't constantly being compared to someone else or told I wasn't good enough. Meanwhile, Dad's career continued to crumble. Mr. Chen had dissolved their partnership. Several of Dad's long-term clients had left. The publicity around the trust fund theft had made other families with similar arrangements nervous. They started asking questions, demanding audits, sometimes moving their money elsewhere. I felt a twinge of guilt about that, but Fiona reminded me that I wasn't responsible for Dad's choices. "He could have done the right thing at any point over the last 7 years," she said. "He chose not to. The consequences are his to bear." Brooke's business had taken a hit as well, though not as severe as I'd expected. Some clients had left after the acknowledgement, uncomfortable with the revelation that she'd built her reputation partly on uncredited work. But others had stayed, and she was slowly rebuilding. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd started actually paying designers for their work now and crediting them properly. Maybe the scandal had taught her something about integrity. 4 months after the confrontation, I received a letter from Mom. Not an email or a text, an actual handwritten letter. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won. "Dear Kayla," it began. "I know you're not ready to talk to us, and I understand why. What we did was wrong. Not just wrong, but cruel. We took advantage of your trust and your love. We convinced ourselves it was for good reasons, that we were helping Brooke build something meaningful, that you would be fine without the money. But those were excuses, not reasons." The letter continued for 3 pages. Mom explained how the stealing had started small, just borrowing from the trust to help with a cash flow problem at Dad's firm. They'd planned to pay it back quickly. But then Brooke had needed money for her business, and it had seemed like such a good investment. They'd told themselves they were being smart with the money, that they'd replace it before I needed it. One rationalization had led to another until they'd spent almost everything. "We were wrong," Mom wrote. "We hurt you terribly, and we're sorrier than words can express. I'm not asking you to forgive us. I'm not even asking you to respond to this letter. I just needed you to know that we understand what we did, and we're living with that guilt every day." I set the letter aside, unsure how to feel. Part of me wanted to believe Mom's remorse was genuine. Part of me thought this was just another manipulation, an attempt to ease their guilt without truly facing consequences. I didn't respond to the letter. I wasn't ready for that conversation, might never be ready. 5 months after everything changed, I was thriving in ways I'd never imagined possible. My new job was fulfilling and challenging. My condo felt like home. My bank account was healthy. I'd even started dating someone I'd met through work, taking things slowly but enjoying the connection. One Saturday afternoon, I was at a coffee shop when I ran into Brooke. We both froze, neither of us sure what to say. "Kayla," she finally said, "can we talk just for a few minutes?" I almost said no, but something made me agree. We sat at a corner table, coffee between us like a barrier. "I wanted to tell you I'm sorry," Brooke began. "Not because of the settlement or the publicity, but because I genuinely didn't realize how much I'd taken from you. Not just money, but credit for your work, our parents' attention, your confidence. I spent so long being the golden child that I never stopped to think about what that cost you." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation. But she seemed sincere, tired in a way I'd never seen her before. "Why now?" I asked. "Why apologize now?" "Because I finally understand what you felt. Last month, one of my designers quit and told everyone I'd been taking credit for her work. It wasn't true. I've been careful about that since everything happened. But feeling that accusation, having people doubt my integrity, it gave me a tiny glimpse of what you lived with for years." Brooke wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I get it now, at least a little bit, and I'm working on being better." We talked for almost an hour. It wasn't a reconciliation, not really. But it was honest in a way our relationship had never been before. As we parted ways, Brooke said, "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. For standing up for yourself, for not letting us destroy you. You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for." I watched her walk away, feeling something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of letting go of some of the anger. 6 months after the confrontation that changed everything, I was finally at peace with my choices. I'd lost my family, at least the version of them I'd grown up with, but I'd gained something more valuable myself. I'd learned that standing up for yourself wasn't selfish, it was necessary. That family loyalty shouldn't mean accepting abuse. That sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from. My life wasn't perfect. I still had moments of sadness about my family. I still wondered if I'd handled everything the right way. But when I looked at my bank account, my career, my home, my independence, I knew I'd made the right choice. The trust fund that should have been mine at 25 had finally reached me at 32. 7 years late, but it had arrived. And with it came a hard-earned lesson about the difference between the family you're born into and the life you build for yourself. Sometimes, I realized, earning everything on your own means fighting for what was yours in the first place.